And I'm curious to see how both teams are now going to adapt when we're heading into the second map.
Well, Trick can adjust the draft here as we move into our second battleground. Let's go ahead and pop on in, as it will be Towers of Doom. The playing Ducks get the choice as Trick Esports takes the first pick, and the Ducks, they love themselves some Towers of Doom.
Yeah, they really like the map, and it's a map where they have been very aggressive. But still, we should see probably a bit more of a focus on global heroes. Now, in the last game, of course, they were very flexible with this early ETC pick, so they could adjust if Trick started to draft global heroes for the top lane. That wasn't the case, so they could shift away from stage dive as a potential global. Now, on the other hand, I would be surprised to not see the Haka being played, since on Towers of Doom, he gets even more value. And then it's again the question, do you have ETC on the other side? Is he going to go into a stage dive build to mirror the Haka? Or are they trying to go for a different global hero and have ETC as the main tank then later on again?
Yeah, it seems like our top laners right now, if you were to rank the top 4, it seems like it's the ETC, the Leoric now, the Dahaka, the Sonya seem to be our top 4s that are being picked up. Seems like Malthio's fallen down a little bit. Again, we only have a small sample size, but maybe we see him mixed in a lot, especially when we watch Team Good Guys.
Malthio is not really being played as much right now. Another hero that is actually starting to fall off is Anubarak. Not completely disappearing, and definitely still has a lot of value, especially when you're an aggressive team that is trying to dive hard into the opponent's backline. But he's not as much of an early pick as he was in the last, let's say, 3 weeks, for example.
Our team's getting better at just killing him or dealing with Cocoon. Why is he falling so much?
I just think that the priority overall is getting a lot... Like, if you have ETC, for example, you can punish an Anubarak that dives in a little bit too deep. If you use your E or Boros Strike and you try and go in, and ETC just power slides you and pushes you in, you have no escape left anymore. So it's really difficult for you to survive. That's one of the reasons. And just the entire way that we're seeing the compositions now being played, they're not as aggressive anymore. We see Illidan starting to disappear a little bit, so you don't have that dive into the backline as much. And that's usually where Anubarak first was played, with the idea of moving in, cocooning the healer, and then going for the damage dealer. But these aggressive backline comps where you jump into the backline, they are starting to fall off a little bit.
Trick taking some time on their ban here. Now they moved into towers. Lots of options available to them. Last time they did ban the Uther as their first ban. This time, they take away the Tassadar. Playing Ducks on their side will have to adjust. How would they like to move into it? Again, a lot of members or people will say, well, why don't you ban out the Dahaka? Why don't you ban out the ETC? Again, you lose out on it by giving away the first pick. They'll pick it up. If you ban out Dahaka, Trick Esports moves straight into the ETC, and then suddenly you're in a spot where you don't have that global and may have to adjust pretty aggressively.
Yeah, and there's ETC now. So for the Ducks, you would expect the Haka to be taken. If not, then they accept that they might not be able to run a global here and go for a different strategy. So this is really one of those moments where now the appearance of Leoric also starts to shift the balance a little bit. Who do you want to have as your solo laner is basically the question here. If you go into Dahaka right now, you basically already say you're not going to take Leoric later. So that's already a huge tell. So you have to make a decision between the global or a hero that can even have more of an impact in teamfights later on. So if the Haka is now not taken, then there's a chance that Trick, for example, picks him up, and then they have the global hero, plus they have ETC. So this entire thing makes it a little bit awkward and interesting to see how the teams are playing around it. For now, the Ducks are just saying we don't need the Haka here. They go into Genji and Uther instead, and keep their options open for the later stages of the draft.
Genji Uther, we've seen it many times. We know its strengths, and so do the playing Ducks. Trick Esport, what will they answer back with?
I mean, with Genji Uther now taking for the Ducks, it's not only that they avoid the question for now, do we go Dahaka or Leoric, but they also take Uther away from ETC, which is another big point here.
No Uther being there, great for them. Trick Esports typically will grab the Rhaegar if available at this point, especially if Uther has been grabbed, so we should be seeing that. My question is, do we see them move into that global strat? Trick Esports seems to enjoy grouping up a little bit more. They have dabbled in the Dahaka, but not as much as other teams.
Yeah, you could definitely go into Dahaka now. We've seen, for example, Dignitas, that was in the last patch though, do a lot of ETC in the Haka strategies. Rhaegar was a given after Uther is taken, and they go for Vala now as the damage dealer, taking it also away from Chris and not allowing him to go into his standard and trademark arrow build. But we have still the Haka not taken. And that's starting to become a bit interesting, that the global heroes that were so heavily focused are now starting to fall off just slightly, because you have other heroes that are very good on lane, provide a lot of value later on then in team fights as well, but they don't have the global. So it's pretty cool to see that happening at this point.
And that too, you see a lot of forced fights that are happening. Yesterday we had multiple times against the Zealots where we would have a fight break out. By the time Darmany even showed up to a fight, someone would already be dead, or he would get picked off. I think teams are also just getting better at forcing those engages and bringing out that damage quickly enough to make it to where the globals aren't even effective when they show up.
Yeah. The Ducks now still respecting Arthas. We know that Alex is fantastic on the hero and he loves to play him. They played a lot of Zula as well, Tricky Spots that is. But Arthas is a hero that you might be a bit more careful about, since ETC is already on their setup. And we've all seen how strong ETC plus Arthas can be at that front line, especially when your main objective is to protect Vala.
The power side into the Howling Blast, that's where that's great.
Well, not only that, that's already amazing, and it's really a lot of lockdown, but how do you get to Vala? You have the Frozen Tempest and a Howling Blast to walk through. It's like basically you wading through a snowstorm, and at the same time, even if you get close to that, there's ETC, and he just face melts you away, and in the meantime, Vala is just chunking your hit points. So getting on her, if you have ETC and Arthas in the team, is insane. So that ban is a strong one here.
Playing Ducks will have to grab their tank here soon and be able to have that engaged to help out the Genji when he goes in for the fights. With the Nubrag being taken away, options are starting to get a little bit limited. Also, with us having a different warrior player for the Playing Ducks, Sport Billy coming out, I actually am not sure what he wants to move into. We saw a variety of heroes yesterday. We saw Murden with him. We saw Diablo as well. His Diablo looked impressive.
It's actually a really good question what Sport Billy prefers to play here. I would think that if they want to go into Garrosh.
New one.
All right, I didn't expect Garrosh to be taken. I love Gul'dan as a choice. Garrosh, on the other hand, I didn't quite expect here. I was actually thinking along the lines of Johanna being played again against ETC and also against Vala. Definitely a good hero to take. Question still remains, what do you pick on the last slot, since we are most likely looking towards the top laner for the last position.
Tricky Sport will now show if they're going to run with a solo tank ETC or grab their own top laner. We'll get that option available for them here. So we also maybe want a little bit more damage from them too. Leo is still up and available. Trick did run it yesterday, but they ran a different build. They didn't run the one we've been seeing. Yeah, no. So normally what you want now is a second healer, a second support, someone who offers something to Vala for safety, and they go for Tyrande as an option. Now you don't need a full healer if you have Rhaegar already. Traditionally, your first thought would be Tassadar, but he's banned out. Then you can still think about Medivh, Abathur even, who's also banned in this case. So Tyrande is an option that they can use. They could have used Stuka, for example, just to add some extra silence to the mix as well. But now they have Tyrande and they have Tyrael. And to be quite honest, with that setup, we could even see them head, there's the Auric again, we could even see them head into Judgment depending on Uther's choice on level 7. We did yesterday on this battleground from Trick.
Yep, so that's definitely an option. For Uther on level 7, if you go against a potential Judgment composition or any kind of Tyrande stun composition, there's always the question, do you go into Hand of Protection or do you go into the Armor Talon, Guardian of the Ancient Kings? There's like two different arguments to be made. The first one is that if you grant the extra armor, you just make sure that the target can stay alive for as long as possible. Yeah. The problem is if several stuns are being stacked, the chances of you moving out of that are still pretty slim, especially if Tyrande can reduce the armor again. If you have Hand of Protection, you play around a much longer cooldown than the normal heal that you have. But at the same time, if there's a stack of stuns and the opponent commits the resources to it, you will usually be able to negate several spells that are being stacked on that one target, and you walk away and you live. So there's like two arguments to be made. I don't think there's a right or wrong in this case. I talked actually yesterday with Grand Paquette quite a bit about it, because they went not into Hand of Protection. They tried it with armor, with Guardian of the Ancient Kings. And in the end, it's really just a matter of what you expect and what you're afraid of. One of the reasons why, for example, yesterday it was played is since they had Johanna going up against ETC, and they were a bit afraid of her getting completely isolated and getting taken down too fast. So the thought process there was just like keep her alive with extra armor, and then they can move back, and that didn't really work out for them. Even in North America, we saw that pick up against the Tyrandes, trying to go for those Lunar Flare stuns and trying to focus them down the Guardian of the Ancient Kings. But I think in the future, as we keep going in, that cleanse will become a little bit more and more important. Let's go ahead and into game number 2 here, as Towers of Doom will be the choice. We do have the Playing Ducks leading the series 1-0. Game number 2, everybody. We have Wolfjo on Uther this time for the playing Ducks. Nande on Genji, waiting for the Divine Shield for his Dragon Blade. Sport Billy on Garrosh this time at the front line in his new role. Chris is on Gul'dan, and Eternal for the second time in this series, playing Leoric.
On the right side in the red, Nape will be playing Rhaegar, Crosby playing Vala, Rimmer on ETC, Make will be your Tyrande player, and Alex Apoji is Tyrael.
Obviously, at this point, we have again the arrow build taken. On the last map, it was more focus on the wave player. This time it's slightly different. And when it comes to the talents, we already have now on Sport Billy going straight for body check as the level 1 talent, taking a page out of Team Expert, where we saw Bad Benny run this exact build whenever he was playing Garrosh.
Bad Benny is still the only Garrosh winner in Europe right now, and it's with that build, so Bad Benny is not a bad one to copy when it comes to the build. So let's see how that will pay off here. Body check being the level 1 already. The fight begins in the middle. Sport Billy walks in and throws a minion in frustration.
Yeah, so right now, I'm really curious to see how much of a play or an effect Leoric is going to have later on, and I really want to see what happens around level 10 for Tyrael if he goes into Judgment again. I could, for example, see that Uther is going to wait with his level 7 talent choice until we have Tyrael commit to his Heroic. That's something that we've seen, especially in 2015. It was very common, because back then, Tyrael players always had the choice of Sanctification or Judgment. Both were absolutely viable, and with Cleanse being located on level 7 and all Cleanse variations, as Hand of Protection, for example, is, the thought process was always, as a support, I have to wait with my level 7 talent choice until I see what my opponent or what my direct counterpart uses as their heroic ability. So sometimes you ended up in these weird situations where an Uther player did not actually choose his level 7, neither his level 10, up to the point where Tyrael, who also waited with his level 10 ability, where Tyrael finally decided in a fight what he wanted to go for. So of course, with the quick picks that you have thanks to hotkeys throughout Control 1, 2, 3, you could see two teams collide, let's say at level 12.
And then insta picks based on who goes in.
Uther didn't have 2 of his talents, Tyrael didn't have his Heroic, and then in the middle of the fight, players would just constantly hit tab to see, okay, did he choose his talent, did he choose his talent, no he didn't, no he didn't. And then at some point you see, okay, Tyrael commits to Judgment, Uther immediately goes Cleanse, picks his ult as well, and tries to cleanse out the first Judgment. So I could see that happen here again, depending on how afraid the playing Ducks are of a potential Tyrael pick into Judgment.
We'll see what does get picked up, but we do have a quick tweet here. Josh wanted to get it in here before we jump back into the match. Let's see what it says here. EU Hype, love the way the cute heroes toys are paired. Cute just like our best commentator duo, Caldor and Trixler.
Thank you.
Caldor, we're cute. Say it. Say it.
Cute is not the word that you look
Say
for.
we're cute.
Okay,
go ahead.
We're cute.
Let's go to the game. Game number 2 here. Towers of Doom. Caldor says we're cute, and so are our players. Let's go ahead and move on in.
Can I be a badass instead of being cute? Is that okay?
We'll be badass next week. For now, we're cute. You and your little purple outfit. Let's go ahead and move on in.
But that makes me sound like a puppy.
Poke continues on the right side. Nande goes in. They find a Rhaegar. They throw a Nape. Nape gets low. Nape trying to heal himself. Will he be able to get away? Nope. Felflame comes out, but Wolfjo, he falls too.
It always looks so funny when Uther dies and he just stands there in his form for just a second like he doesn't know what just happened. He's like, wait, I'm dead? How? Like, what?
I imagine that's how Purgatory will be when we eventually die. All right, Make. Taking Poke in the middle, but it is time for our 3 altars to activate. In 20 seconds, they'll be up here. One at the top left, top right, and bottom side. Looking at the compositions, if you were to make a quick guess on who would get 2, who do you think would walk away with it?
Oh, with the altars right now, considering the early game here, I would actually say that Twict has a pretty good chance of making the double altar happen right now. A lot of interrupts on both sides now, but if it's all about, for me in the early game, looking at this, it's all about trying to get the double stun on the side of Twict esports. So early game should be pretty solid for them. But as we can see here right now, their rotation was just too slow. Twict couldn't even fight for it. They have the interrupts available, but their rotation was actually surprisingly slow, to be honest. I mean, they didn't even really attempt to go for the third one.
Maka didn't even drop his ally. I believe he did it in the middle lane, but I guess he didn't think he would have it in time to actually hit on the bottom side to delay, and Trick Esports will now be behind 4 points. Again, nothing big, but whenever you have the chance and you have that poke, you should be trying to grab as many as you can.
Yeah, I expected a bit of a fight to be happening over the third one, but that never really came into play here. So for now, we have actually just both of the teams on even experience. The level 4 talents have now been picked up, which gives us, with Neil Peasants, a lot more push potential for Eternal. And that is actually going to put Tyrael into a really awkward spot at the top lane. He's not really the top solo laner that you expect. And I would think that either Tricked has now to heavily win the 4-man, or they have to at least rotate someone up top every now and then, since Tyrael is just going to be crushed by Leoric in the long run.
Yeah, Tyrael is this weird jack of all trades. He does a little damage, does a little bit of supporting, does a little bit of mobility, and he has sanctification. Like, it's this really weird hero to put in the top laner. He'll hold it, but eventually he will get beat out. We'll see if the playing Ducks will be able to keep pushing in.
He just doesn't have the wave clear. That's his biggest problem, especially not after Leoric picks up his level 4 with Neil Peasant, which increases his damage against minions and mercenaries by 75% on the skeleton swing. So now that happened, Leoric is going to take this lane down, and he already took one tower apart, and the second one is basically drained of ammunition. Nice stun follow-up on Garrosh, and that's exactly what they need to do here. Every single time that Sport Billy is able to throw someone, they need to make sure that they are immediately ready with a follow-up stun, and that is going to be Uther, who's going to try and provide this. And of course, then there can be the follow-up with damage.
Yeah, and the best part about that too was Uther waited half second there to wait for the power side to come out and interrupted it in the middle. See if they can continue to do that, but also got to be careful because that ETC does sneak away. You won't be able to burst them down as easily, especially as we move towards that level 10.
Leoric stays top lane, so this means that Tricked is eventually going to get this altar. But for the Ducks, this is not about winning the altar right now. Ducks are trying to buy time, so they will interrupt as much as they can, with Nanda in particular. And as long as they get a few interrupts, yep, there we have it. That's all they need, because Leoric is doing work at the top lane. So the Ducks are completely happy to sacrifice this altar just to get value top. They need to make sure that nobody dies down here, and that's already happening. Uther, by the way, did not hold back his level 7. He immediately uses it because they're up against Tyrande already and against ETC. That alone was an argument for the Ducks to say we go into Hand of Protection. But in the meantime, Eternal broke through the entire wall and put damage onto the bell tower itself.
Good plays by both teams there. Playing Ducks first off, getting that fort low on the top side, but Rimmer for Trick Esport on the right side, identifying, okay, we have a number advantage. We need to go aggressive. We can afford to take a little bit more damage for these turrets to set up my team to get the altar, and they were able to do so because of his movement.
Another camp also taken. Leoric, on the other hand, at the top lane, falling to Alex.
Did he take
No, mid lane. Sorry, my bad.
Oh, okay, I was going to say.
I was like, there's no way he died to Tyrael. I was just like, how did that happen?
I mean, he must have unplugged his keyboard. Like, Tyrael does not kill Leo very easily.
Yeah, and then in the mid lane, that's where the actual gank happened. So, yeah, my apologies. Misread that on the minimap. But now Tricked and Playing Ducks, both of them starting to work towards their level 10 and 8.5. But at this point, we still have that slight experience lead from the Playing Ducks, thanks to the experience that Leo got at the top lane a bit earlier. Also, very important to notice that on level 7 now for Garrosh we have Brute Force, and that's going to be a really important talent because it provides the healing reduction that you have. And against Rhaegar in particular, I mean, the ideal scenario is that you actually counter the Ancestral with it. That's the dream. If you can make that happen, oh, and that was a really good throw, and could be the kill against Tyrande, and indeed is great Garrosh play here by Sport Billy.
Even helps there too. The dream is the ancestral healing, but you saw there the body check into it, stopped the Tyrande from healing herself. Rhaegar even attempted to give her a heal, but it just wasn't enough. Playing Ducks get a kill on Make, Tyrande does fall, and it comes at a great time too. There's tributes spawning here, top left and top right, while they're about to hit level 10.
Perfect timing. Baller already with a bit of zoning attempt here, but of course Tyrande and also Tyrael now back to business. The level 10 is here, and that's half level. They can make an aggressive play for the right side and should make that play for both of the altars at this point. And this is what they do. They should aggressively push forward with everyone, though. Sport Billy does exactly that. They have only a small time frame, and they're trying to use it, zoning as much as they can. Genji with a channel. Alex starts to move in. First interrupt happens. Still experience being leached by Trick. They want the 10. And we have the Ducks giving this up for now.
Delayed long enough there with Tyrande helping on the Owls, and the threat of Hungering Arrows coming in too, and a Luna Flare on the top side. Playing Ducks waited out long enough for Trick Esport to get level 10, and now it's going to be difficult for them to grab the altar. Let's go ahead and run to different lanes instead, getting experience and delay where they can.
Yeah, Trick just has too many interrupts. They were afraid of that. I have to admit, I would have gotten too greedy. I would have tried to get it and probably died a painful death there.
You would be in the kill zone.
Yeah,
dropping the taunt with Garrosh.
I mean, if you look at Tyrande with interrupts, you have also, of course, then Tyrael. It's just they can make this happen way too easily without exposing themselves to any kind of repercussions. So the Ducks make the smart move. They find value in other places on the maps in the meantime. But yeah, I would have been very, very tempted in this case, I have to admit. By the way, ETC now has taken the top lane because Tyrael is running with the rest of the team. Now we have level 10, and that means that ETC had the option to go into stage dive, so now he becomes the solo laner, so to say. Interesting with that is that he did not take Echo Paddle on 7. Traditionally, if you want to be the solo lane ETC, the offlaner, Echo Paddle is the talent to take because it provides additional wave clear for you. In this case, we don't see that. Good throw again, by the way, down here by Sport Billy. I'm really liking him on the tank position now.
Yeah, he's doing well, and I want to say the Playing Ducks have been looking great this match, but if you look at everything here, it's 28 to 28. We're all tied up in experience, a little bit behind, about half a level. But the big change here is this top right lane. With the ammo already drained, a Eternal has been shutting down this top lane, and we'll get a bell tower for it, looks like.
I'm really weirded out seeing Billy in the... Oh, nice! Chris with a perfect Horrify. That was really well done by him and results in a kill against Tyrael. But I'm really surprised because when I think about Sport Billy, if you would have asked me 2 weeks ago if I could see Sport Billy in the tank role, I would probably have called you straight up crazy.
With not as much variety, too.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, he's so impactful on, let's say, his mid-div, for example. He's so strong there, and in the heroes that he plays, that putting him into the tank role is something where I would have said, I don't really see it. Why would you waste him there? He is so good on the other roles that he plays. But seeing him now and how he performs in this is working out extremely well for them. I feel that they lose a very strong mid-div play if they have him on the tank, but the plays that he so far made yesterday and already today really make up for that.
He's dictating the pace of this game. It feels like every time you look at the battleground, where is Sport Billy and what is he doing? And usually it's throwing an opponent over his shoulder right now and help his team get a kill. And the best part, too, is it sets up the Golden, Chris here, to drop down those Horrifies. See, we've only seen one major Horrify this entire match, but it's been enough to get a kill due to Sport Billy walking forward and getting a fight to begin with for his team. The Tricked Esport team, though, they're getting a little bit tired of these plays that are happening. They're going to make their own play. They come in with a stage dive, they look for Golden, but Wolf Joe turns around and drops a Divine Shield.
Divine Shield, and Crosby is down. The Ancestral not going through. Great play again by Sport Billy, allowing the kill here. Tyrande also. This is crazy. They just lost 3 heroes. They engaged into a fight, and yes, you can criticize Alex for dropping that Sanct a little bit too early and prematurely, not getting value. But overall, the entire initiation came from Tricked trying to force the fight here, and that completely backfired against them. Now there's another bell tower lost in the mid lane, and for me, a lot of it comes down, again, to Garrosh. That throw against Vala was perfect, exactly what they need. They get so many kills in here. Not even Gul'dan died. I mean, there's an immediate Divine Shield. They together walk to the top. The rest of the team gets the kill at the bot lane. I was so well done by the Ducks. I'm really blown away by their coordination today.
And another kill. Sport Billy finds Tyrael. Oxyprogy will get taken out here on the Tyrael and dies once again for 25 more seconds. They will only have 4 men available for a fight. They move in for another engage. Crosby dropping down the Hungering Arrow. They're trying to fight. Rimmer on the left side. The strafe will be utilized.
And Sport Billy immediately says, get the hell out of here. ETC just like, no, screw it. We're not going to deal with you. We're not going to kill anybody. Get out of here. Throws him out of the fight. Garrosh is just this bully in any bar. He's like the bouncer. He's just like, nope. Throws him out and back, and that's now a 2-level lead. We have 28 points, hit points on the core of the Playing Ducks, 23 for Tricked Esports. So in the objective, it's a slight lead, but now this is the 5th altar phase, and we have 3 altars that are being fought over, and Playing Ducks should at least walk away with 2.
Eternal will be focused, does barely get away. No, the Owl snipes him here. He gets picked off. 2 altars go over to the Playing Ducks, but that's just fine. They don't have to contest on the top because they can move in onto the bottom right side and start working on a bell tower, and they do so.
Yeah, this is starting to become a bit rough because Tricked is now falling far, far behind in the points in the core. I also want to highlight quickly that the stacking process for Tyrande is insanely slow. Currently, we are having him at 18 stacks, which let's face it, 12 minutes into the game is not really a whole lot. You already have your level 13 talent for the cooldown reduction, but so far, Market didn't really get a lot. Interrupts, of course, on this map add a bit more value to it, so it's not only about the damage, but this is still a bit rough. Sanctification now being dropped in the fight, and we have ETC jumping in with the Sage Dive.
Sage Dive hits the backside. Garrosh will be the target. Sport Billy gets low, but Wolf Joe again with a Divine Shield. The Horrify hitting, bringing members underneath the bell tower and getting them lower.
Rema Ball are low and constantly being attacked here as Nanda is attempting to go in, but the Divine Shield has already been used, so he doesn't get the full value out of his Dragon Blade. Leoric still in the top lane during all of this. So right now this is a 4 versus 5 under the bell tower that is being fought, whereas Leoric is just pushing the lane, not joining too many team fights just yet. But the Ducks are just in full control of this game right now.
Rimmer's going for a flank. They need a kill. They know it. They're moving in. Here is a knockback. Chris, underneath the bell tower, will be left stranded. He will eventually die, but so will Wolf Joe on the left side. Rimmer trying to hold him in here. Sport Billy attempting to save him, but with a Luna Flare coming out, Wolf Joe eventually does get picked up. Here we go. Trick Esport has found a foothold in this game.
Yeah, they got their 2 kills. They have level 16 talents now. I'm still liking the way that Garrosh was trying to negate ETC, pulling him in, throwing him back, just trying to play ping pong with him a little bit and make sure that he doesn't know what's going on quite. The thing is that even with the bell tower reclaimed at the bottom, we now have one taken up at the top, so there is an exchange. The 2 deaths that the playing Ducks suffered, on the other hand, that is definitely giving Trick Esports some momentum they can now use. Especially since both of these heroes are going to be dead for another 10 seconds. They have a chance to make the double altar play in the middle and at the bot lane.
Playing Ducks will need to buy some time here. They need roughly about 15 to 20 seconds to get all of their members back towards this area on the middle altar, so they give the one up on the bottom. Nande goes in. He will start to delay with some poke. Crosby turns around and puts some damage on him, so they have successfully delayed for a little bit. Gul'dan finally showing up, should be able to poke with Corruption.
Yeah, and there we have another interrupt as we see Uther moving in. Now they have to go in once again, and there we have it. Nanda immediately with interrupt, and they have successfully pushed Trick off that altar, so they can fight for it now. And with Eternal being in the fight, him picking up not only his Royal Focus on 16, but the Omnia's Wrath too, we are going to see him try and focus on Vala with his Wraith Walk during these fights now as well. And that's going to have a big impact on the Team 5 capabilities. Keep in mind that ECC is up at the top lane, so he's going to stage dive in.
Exactly. Ducks want to force a fight, and Trick Esports wants to delay with their poke between Strafe and Maka here with the poke. Finally, stage dive does come in. They go on the backside. Sync will be utilized. Tyrael staying alive for the moment. Maka also keeping up the damage with Crosby.
Yeah, same time. Once again, Eternal moving in. March of the Black King nearly negated, actually, with the Horrify earlier. Divine Shield on Leoric. He's still alive. Alex is in the back, trying to get the kill against Garrosh. Doesn't get it. He himself, on the other hand, dies. Everybody else rushing out. Eternal staying alive for a bit longer, but eventually he falls. Of course, he can always rely on his own talents now to come back a bit faster, but the channel is still happening here since the Ducks had to retreat to the fountain and try and get their health and hit mana point back up.
1-for-1 trade in both kills and altars, but still, Playing Ducks are ahead, 18 to 15. Trick Esport are staying in the game. Playing Ducks with a full level lead are on their way to 20. Trick grabbing everything they can on the map here to get Sapphire's pushing, to get experience, and to get back before 20 hits on the next altar phase.
Trick is still staying in this though, and they're doing a great job actually not losing out too much here. Keep in mind that bosses are still a matter in this game, and they are currently up at the top. Also, Maka is really starting to ramp up the stacks on Tyrande. In the last few minutes, he has been able to increase his Tyrande stacks by 30. He's now at 48. So that's only in 2-3 minutes where he got an additional 30 stacks. Big push happening again down here at the bot lane, while ETC is at the top. He has stage dive ready, Crosby popping strafe. And in the last fight, actually, when we saw Horrify coming in, that was a bit annoying for Eternal. Everybody was clustered in that small corridor, and then Horrify and March of the Black King hit at the same time.
Oh.
And Eternal had to watch how everybody got horrified away from every single swing he made. So that was a bit unfortunate with the communication. Both of them had the right thought process. Horrify was great, and the March was great, just not at the same time at the same spot.
The anti-synergy hitting. Playing Ducks taking the moment while they've taken bell towers on the top and the bottom side as Trick Esports takes them back so they have them under their control. Playing Ducks will walk over to the boss and easily take it. Trick Esports being occupied with those bell towers have bought them just enough time. And here is the altar phase. Trick has done enough to get map control back in their favor. They'll be even with their opponents, or even working on the bell tower on the bottom side, and They've hit level 20 with 1 altar spawning.
Interesting also to see that we have Burning Despair for Eternal on Leoric now on 20. We don't see that too often. Nice move again by Sportbilly. That's a cleanse against Tyrael. Well done, making sure that Alex survives. They're still behind, of course, and there's a single altar now on the map. But yeah, as I said, so Burning Despair is being taken, so area of effect damage going to be heavily increased by Leoric in these fights. Interesting choice, nothing I've seen so far yet, but we are on our first weekend on the new patch. Here comes the Horrify stage dive into the backline already as everybody starts to jump through already. Demonic Circle being used by Chris. Yeah, they go for the kill and they get it against Vala. The damage is gone. Nappe about to die as well. Zank goes down, saving everyone from Tricked so far. Nanda in trouble, but we have Sportbilly and also Leoric still trying to push them heavily. Alex gets the Ancestral, and oh my god, that fight!
The playing ducks are low, and this means the tanks can chase. Rimmer is moving in. He gets the power slide. We'll find out on Sportbilly. Sportbilly with the big taunt turns around, also throwing members of Trick Esports to the top right. And the playing ducks with the last second taunt into the engage will get the kills here and keep all 5 of their teammates alive.
How did nobody die for the ducks? They were so low. At the beginning when they took Vala out, I was just like, okay, this fight is over. Trick just lost the battle heavily. And then Trick turns it around, gets that kill, turns it into a 4 versus 4, and looks fantastic. At some point, it really looked that everyone on the Ducks would fall, but they somehow keep themselves alive. The damage reduction of Leoric comes through. They have their sustain with the Consume Vitality and the Drain Hope, and Trick starts to lose member after member. That was a fantastic turnaround. First from Tricked Esports and then from the playing Ducks in that battle. A huge fight between the two, and that of course allows the Ducks now to get not only the altar, but before they channel the altar, they even take 2 additional bell towers.
They're trying to grab everything. They want to give a few extra shots here and then rotate down and grab the altar. Thurna was even on the bottom side to make sure Rimmer was coming in to defend. Once he sees that defense pop up, he'll run over and start grabbing the altar. The bell tower on the top right is being focused down. This should be 1 or 2 shots here for the playing Ducks.
That should be an interrupt. There's the Owl, and now Rimmer Baller is here.
But look, all the bell towers are now owned.
Now they have to either fight over the altar or over a bell tower.
This sucks if you're Trick Esport. How do you handle this?
I mean, they have to just like push him back, channel through, they get 1 shot. But in the meantime, of course, there are shots fired. I think the Ducks should have channeled it earlier. But again, like they get value out of it. That's time wasted, but they would have gotten way more out of this situation if they just would have channeled it through. They would have gotten 6 shots, and now they only got 5.
And now
4 actually.
If they see ETC working on a bell tower, they can force a fight. They're going to heal up, head back home here, be just fine. ETC is working on the middle, and we do have Genji in the middle. Floating around, does see the opponents on the right side. Here's a fight earlier, by the way.
Yeah, look at that fight. That Sank was so good. It was fantastic. And then with Nanda nearly falling, just wait a second when Alex moves in. And right now, after the Ancestral, there's a moment when Wolf Joe and also Sportbilly look as if they die. They don't want to kill Wolf Joe on Uther because they don't want him to give the additional healing power. Sportbilly doesn't die, and then it's just Eternal. Eternal was at full hit points at this moment because he just has so much sustain through his Drain Hope and March of the Black King.
Playing Ducks and Trick will fight here on the bottom side. We did have the stage dive to open up the fight. They find a Genji, they find an Uther. Wolfjo is down. He will have redemption. Eternal backs up, and Chris will poke.
Yeah.
Tricked opens up the map, and they get a couple kills.
Get a couple of kills here, and Rimmer Baller with a very premature power slide here into the minion wave. I mean, I don't think he could have gotten Uther because Uther was already underneath the bell tower, but still, there was a cooldown, was burned a bit early. Maybe he could have had a chance to isolate someone else. There's a double altar now on the map, and it's 4 against 4 bell towers. There's a 10 hit point difference between the points on the core. The Ducks are sitting on 17, and we have 7 for Tricked. The talents here, both of the teams on level 22 by now. Demonic Circle playing a huge role, of course, as we saw earlier when Gul'dan saved himself, so he needs to make sure that he positions that correctly now as we have the next one moving in. Titanic Might, by the way, on 20. So at this point, you can throw the 2 closest enemies on 24 Garrosh, who's going to try and use that. ETC moves over, going for the channel. And to the left, we are having and then pushing away them. Oh my god, super early stage dive here, not even going for the channel first. They want to win that fight right here. But we have one sneaking over to the right. It's actually...
Does he have an owl? Make, do you have an owl? Can you stop Garrosh from the right? It's not going to be game. Oh, it is game. Oh!
They got the
sappers went in on the top right. That's going to be the 4 shots. And Sportbilly walks over, takes an altar from the stage dive coming in, and wins the game.
That was pretty well done.
I can understand the reasoning from Trick Esport. Genji was up in 4 seconds. They're like, okay, we need to fight now, win decisively on the left side. But Sportbilly, with the awareness, just walks across the map and takes the altar.
It was well done by Sport Billy. It was also misplayed by Trick, because we saw ETC. ETC moved to the altar, was at the altar, and was about to start the channel, and then they started the fight at the left side, and he moved in with his stage dive. And what they should have done, and what would have been the smarter play, is interrupt on the left. You have all the tools that you need. You have everything. You have the owl. You are in a perfect spot to interrupt. Get the channel through with ETC first, and once the channel is done and you have taken your own altar, just jump over. I think the reason why they didn't do it was because they said, hey, I don't think they saw the sappers up at the top. I think that was the main problem. I didn't see them either.
It was sneaky.
Like, they snuck them in, they were moving, but at that point, everyone was so focused on the 2 altars that they said, hey, we have 7 points, we need to win both of them anyways, let's just make sure that we get the ones. And then at some point, Sport Billy just realized, wait a second, all our sappers at the top are going to hit right now.
You mean I can just win the game?
That's 3. If I walk over and don't even fight, I can just end it. But in hindsight, of course, going for the channel first, then jumping in with ETC would have been the correct play here. And then the fight over the left side altar would have decided if the game's over or not. As is, a 2 lead for the Ducks, and a very impressive one at that.
Playing Ducks up 2-0, looking for maybe another win on our next game. And we'll be right back after our commercial break to watch the game unfold here. This is the HGC.